Welcome back to Chefs in the City. I'm Ann Fisher, and joining me, my two co-hosts, Rich Terapak and Steve Stover. Welcome back, guys.
Thanks.
They are both lawyers who, in their spare time, have built 40-year side careers as cooking teachers. They've traveled the world and lived to write and share what they've learned about international cuisines, including some of the best restaurants in the world. On Chefs in the City, we like to talk about food and the people, from the old favorites to new Americans who make what we love to eat in Central Ohio and beyond. Apparently, people from around the country are talking about the Columbus culinary scene. It's pretty amazing. The chefs and their restaurants, the wine stores and distilleries, the brewers and bakers, and more. So, Rich Terapak, what the heck? I mean, when I moved here 36 years ago, as I've said before, the food scene in Columbus stood out to me very differently, very non-ethnic, very boring. Very meat and potatoes. What
milk
changed?
Kind of
very
thing,
milk toast, yeah.
Yeah. What changed is, well, we've been fortunate enough to gain a number of great chefs.
Yeah, but why? I mean, obviously the city's growing, but...
Well, and I think part of that, part of it is the city's growing. I think part of it is there's a demand. We have a lot of college graduates who like to stick around. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, the ones who are less than 30 are known as dinks, dual income, no kids. So they have the appropriate amount of resources to test out a lot of these places, and that encourages more people to come in and share and try to share the wealth.
And success breeds success.
Yeah.
We've had some world-class chefs like Hartmut Henke and Richard Rosendale, who participated in the most prestigious cooking competition in the world at the Bocuse d'Or. When they come into town, that creates an atmosphere that other people want to come. Like the young folks that started...
Ambrose and...
Well, Ambrose and Eve. And I was also thinking about the coffee house. The
Fox in the Snow?
Fox in the Snow. Yeah. They came to Columbus to open a restaurant.
It's like a miracle I was able to get there.
Thank you. And they came to Columbus wanting to do a restaurant, and they were greeted by Cameron Mitchell and other Jenny and other Columbus people welcomed them to Columbus.
Jenny Britton Bauer. Jenny Britton, I should say, yeah.
Created, number one, you have the great chefs here, and they're welcoming, and that breeds growth.
And a number of those situations, we have former Columbus residents who may have gone someplace else to school, some maybe hanging out in New York and married some chef from New York, and was able to talk him into coming to Columbus to a place called Chapman's Eats, which
there you go,
which has been kind of a touchstone for a lot of things, including not that many years ago, an article in the New York Times, that section, which is now a whole section of the paper, 52 places you should go in 2025.
Yeah.
I think it was an 18, perhaps.
18 or 19, yeah.
That they featured Columbus as one of the places
in the world to go.
And specifically Chapman's Eats.
Right. And the other part
they're an example, though, of someone who came here. They were kind of thinking Chicago, something a little bit bigger.
Yeah, he was in Washington.
But they checked it out because his spouse and his partner.
And I think the same thing is true as Fox in the Snow.
And I also think that this article was followed up by two other articles specifically talking about the restaurants and distilleries in Columbus. And then followed literally dozens of articles about the Columbus restaurants.
You know, when you read those articles, do they get it right?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah. They do, and I think we're probably fortunate that the editor of that particular section likes Columbus, so it may have some ties back here. So got an inside.
What's not to like?
Yeah, who
inside
knew
baseball.
That wine enthusiasts would write an article about Columbus, Ohio, and then Food and Wine had at least 3 articles about Columbus, including the wine scene in Columbus, which I thought was pretty much a big
One of my favorites is Forbes carried an article entitled "Why You Should Plan a Spring Trip to Columbus, Ohio: A Hidden Gem in Plain Sight."
Because it's not for the weather.
Yeah. No, I said why spring specifically, but we'll take it.
Another one, Essence Magazine,
This is great.
had best destinations for culinary travel in the world.
In the world.
Columbus, Ohio.
So,
So the word is out.
yeah.
I think that Columbus competes with Nashville and Austin among the great cities, food cities, mid-sized cities in the country.
And some claim we've eclipsed Cleveland, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh.
Oh,
etc.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was 20 years ago.
Except back in the day, those cities were more notable for their ethnic variety.
Right.
Columbus was very, I think you've used the word milquetoast. I mean,
Yeah.
it just had no variety. It was, you could get a great steak in Columbus, but you couldn't get a great taco.
Yeah.
Well,
We didn't
I
have-
remember driving to Cleveland to go to the Maisonette
Yeah.
and Pigalle, two French restaurants.
Cincinnati.
There's also was one Cincinnati. Did I say Cleveland?
You did say Cleveland, and I thought Maisonette was in Cincinnati, but what do I know? Yeah.
Yeah,
We were driving anyway.
They even had a rooftop restaurant that rotated in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Maisonette, Pigalle, world-class restaurants. But now they come here.
And Steve and Mary went specifically for Grater's ice cream.
Yeah.
and the turtle
And
sun-
steak and shake.
and the turtle sundae.
I don't think that the presence of Ohio State University can be
Underestimated.
underestimated. I mean,
think that's
it's it sure the Buckeyes, blah blah blah. We should do hashtag Buckeyes with this episode so that we can get more viewers. But the when students from around the world started to converge on Columbus,
And professorial staff.
yes,
And that required you needed some place to go. And I think it started off really with the Honda plant bringing in the Japanese restaurants. But that's been reinforced by a lot of students. If you go to the faculty club on the campus and you eat downstairs, it's the favorite place for the Asian community to meet.
why? I've
I
eaten
don't
there
know.
before.
It's
but,
very ordinary. They like ordinary American
Okay.
food.
Well, yeah, and
It's reasonably
not
priced.
only Ohio State, but we have a number of other universities. But being a
Yes.
university town and a town with a lot of corporate headquarters
Yeah.
and a town that has spawned some of America's most important restaurant chains, Wendy's, White Castle,
Strangely, yeah.
all of that comes together to create an environment where we can be a cool food city.
Yeah, and now even City Barbecue, which started not that long ago, is up to 77 stores.
It's been franchised though, hasn't it?
No.
No.
Okay. Oh no.
All company owned.
They're using
Okay.
the White Castle method
back.
in order to keep quality control. It's company owned.
Okay, and then let's talk about another huge influence you've kind of mentioned, but Cameron Mitchell. I mean, yes, he's got 100 restaurants out there, and he seems to be, just never ending in his ideas. Very inspired. He's inspired by his work, and he does very personal things. But he's also wants more of everything.
Yeah, he does.
Well, he's helped to create the atmosphere in Columbus. He's also put his own money into the culinary program at Columbus State.
A lot. Well, it's called
helping
the
to build Mitchell Hall.
Mitchell Hall.
Mitchell Hall.
But that
which is quite an
now-
extraordinary facility that we didn't have. Steve and I used to teach there.
basement.
It was in the basement of the old Aquinas High School, and this is a 4-story building, has multiple classrooms. The equipment that's in there is incredible, and they have a good restaurant.
But it permits growth
degrees.
of people in the hospitality industry, not just cooks, but front of the house people.
Right.
They're building a wine program and wine service. It's just, again, taking Columbus up another notch in the culinary.
And they bring it to the community too, because I've been to a couple classes there now.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a student, full-time culinary
absolutely.
student to enjoy it, and they're very smart about that.
And quite frankly, I think part of the reason Cameron did this is it is his recruiting technique. A lot of them don't make it through the whole 2-year program, and on some things because he hires them away if he thinks
Right. I suppose it is a little self-serving. They're being trained at his doorstep, and
They also let the students do stages or internships at his restaurants too.
Right.
There are a whole lot of them.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I would like to talk more about as we move forward is schools, culinary schools, and what a thing they've become, and how professionalized they've become. Even if you look at like the show like Top Chef when they first started, there were a lot of people on it that hadn't necessarily been to culinary schools. They were self-taught. Now it's pretty.
Yeah.
What's the word? De rigueur. That's you're expected to have studied it.
Right. At the CIA or the Culinary Institute of America.
And of course, my favorite, the Lachino Culinary School up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Lachino.
Lachino.
The channels.
Yeah, the channels for the Channel Islands. A beautiful secret. So that's a lot. A lot happened all at the same time. What do you think something like Intel coming in and all these big multi-billion-dollar industries moving into this?
It's got to help. They'll have, Intel itself is only going to have about 300 employees.
Right.
But they also have an executive staff that's coming in and out of town.
And they're going to have ancillary businesses popping up.
And Amazon.
I'm excited about
Amazon.
that. As an East Sider, we need more restaurants.
Yeah.
So, and we have also the Johnstown and New Albany area will be greatly impacted by that. It's encouraging.
Granville.
Yeah.
Yep.
I wanted to duck back because we just recently had an article in Bon Appetit featuring our own Avishar Barua, and his restaurant Agni is one of the 20,
hometown guy, by the way.
Yeah. Went to Ohio State, one of the 20 best new restaurants in the United States, and who knew that Columbus, Ohio, would have 2 James Beard semifinalists this year.
Avishar
Barua and B.J. Lieberman of Chapman's Eat Market. And by the way, meanwhile, Avishar was on Top Chef, and then recently he beat Bobby Flay. He actually beat Bobby Flay on the Beat Bobby Flay show. So that too adds to the credibility and panache of Columbus with having our chefs out there nationally known. 2 years ago, I guess it was, 2 other chefs were named and from very different backgrounds. Spencer Boudros of Pistacia Vera were semifinalists, and James Anderson of Ray Ray's Barbecue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Right. But that just speaks to the variety.
Yeah,
then.
exactly. And barbecue is pretty popular around here.
It's
And Spencer's French pastries are popular everywhere.
Yeah. That was one of those places I wondered when it opened, will it last? And
Pistachio.
it has. Obviously, it's an institution now.
Yeah.
And they're at Bridge Park too, aren't? Or are they North Market? Or
They were for a while.
Okay,
yeah,
they're not. They pulled back on that, but still,
During
it's an
COVID,
institution.
yeah.
What have you learned about the chefs you've met and the restaurant owners you've met over the years about what makes it and what doesn't?
I guess, and it's true of anyone that makes it. It's a tough business being a chef.
No matter what, the margins are narrow.
Margins are narrow. The hours are horrible.
Yep.
So they have to be energetic.
Talk about retail hours.
Yeah. It's a 12-hour day is probably pretty short. Chef Hankey used to close his restaurant at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and he'd be at, I think it was Myers, buying groceries at 7. So, you keep that up for only so long. But so you got to have stamina.
And passion.
Yeah.
I think passion is.
Yeah.
The people who do this and who really succeed are driven.
Yeah.
They're not just laid back people most of the time because of all the things that go into having a restaurant. It's not just cooking. It's front of the house. People forget about that. And the hospitality aspects of it and things like that. So you got to really...
It's administrative, the staff and maintaining the service staff, but also the kitchen staff.
Yeah.
Sort of bargaining with the lessor on the latest lease.
That's been another factor in losing some of our restaurants. They lost their lease.
I was kind of surprised at that, and I wonder how this change in commercial real estate since the pandemic is going to affect that? Maybe make it a little easier on the restaurateurs?
Yeah, and I think
Because
I think we have some non-chefs who like food a lot, who are doing a lot to make sure that restaurants find housing.
and there's a big story about that
Well-
in the Dispatch and elsewhere about Gay and High.
Yeah,
Right, Jeff Edwards of Edwards
Developer.
Companies,
yeah,
who started this little thing called which supported Veritas, which became the number one restaurant in Columbus, and they opened a wine store. This is at Gay and High, and then more recently, he opened a restaurant called Speck Italian Eatery, which is very popular, and now.
well, and then because of he and his partner have spent a lot of time in Charleston, business partner, have spent a lot of time in Charleston and loves
South Carolina, yeah.
yeah, and loves Hanks. That they brought them into
that's
town.
right.
Brought Hanks to town, a Charleston seafood restaurant, and then across the street. Now they had planned to have a French bistro there, and planned to have Josh Dalton of Veritas do it, but he decided not to. And so this group that brought the Hanks here created Chouette, which is French for owl, which is a really, really cool French bistro. And
On the northeast corner of Gay and High.
And as we'll talk about soon, Josh Dalton just announced that he's going to do a new Mexican restaurant
Really?
in the same
Rosalita.
building called Rosalita's.
Yeah.
And so now we've got 6 restaurants at the corner of Gay and High, plus Gay Street is sort of a hot restaurant and bar place.
Yeah,
anyway.
they've got down the road. Yeah.
So we got synergy again, and,
Yes.
we're really,
Critical mass.
the place is
Yeah.
really cooking.
Yeah. And Jeff is also encouraging that to be kind of a pedestrian area down east on Gay Street from High because of all that's going on.
And Cameron
down there.
Rich's newest restaurant, Butcher and Rose, is in one of his buildings at the corner of Broad and Fourth.
Right out
Formerly-
there. It's if people are driving by, it's that big glass.
Yeah.
The part of it
Yeah.
pops out.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
It used to be called PNC Building, but it's now called
Yeah.
the Preston Center. And more is coming there.
Yeah.
All the parking
Oh,
lots.
the
but
gardens down there.
And beautiful.
The sunken
Yeah.
gardens.
Yeah.
I don't know what they call them.
It's really
but
cool.
I hope they open a bar there in the summertime.
That would
Maybe
be
not
awesome.
It
today.
reminds
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
It's 1 degree
New York,
below.
They
Yeah.
need to have a bar down there.
Yeah.
It reminds me of New York and Boston.
Well,
Yeah.
I think one of the other reasons the word got out about us is that we've become quite a convention city. And it's not just the Arnold, where you got to have a lot of protein in town for the Arnold.
Yeah.
But the convention center it's cheek and jowl with the short north. So all the different restaurant opportunities there demonstrate to those people from Alabama, wherever they're coming to town for a convention, that Columbus has a lot to offer.
I mean, look at the Hilton alone. How many restaurants in the Hilton?
Yeah.
A lot. But it now has 1,100 rooms in the Hilton Hotel.
It's the biggest hotel in the state.
Wow.
And right around the corner, in the Hyatt
Hyatt,
Regency, Smith and Walensky is moving from Easton into the first floor of the Hyatt.
What do you think
Into
about
the-
that?
I don't know.
I think it may work better in that, again, conventioneers, a lot of coming to town, they're there, they're staying in they often like people like their steaks. As a matter of fact,
Right down the street is Jeff Ruby's.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
And across
right
the street is another top 10 restaurant in one of the hotels. So
and I think for a place like Smith and Walensky, which is a well-known Manhattan
Right.
steakhouse, will sell well. In fact, we'll talk about this in another show. But most of the new restaurants we're seeing, there's a little bit of deja vu in that a lot of them are steakhouses.
Interesting.
4 of the top 5 new restaurants in Columbus in 2024 were steakhouses. And there are more. There's a whole bunch of steakhouses all over town.
Yeah.
More.
So we didn't lose the steakhouse. we gained
they
a lot
came
of other
back.
stuff. Yeah, they
Yeah.
came back essentially.
Apparently, people want to go to steakhouse.
I mean, Morton's was here for a pretty good ride,
Yeah.
but they closed up finally.
Yeah.
Ruth's Chris.
Ruth's Chris, yeah. Are they anywhere?
Yeah, there's
town?
one. There's one in the short north.
Okay.
Near the North Market,
Okay, they moved.
and
I can't keep
other,
track of these things.
Yeah.
That's why I have you guys.
Well, that's what we do.
That's what we do.
We go out and eat, damn it. Somebody's got to do it.
and we've decided to take all of these in. One of the best things to do is happy hour.
Yeah.
And that gets you to a lot of different places at a good price.
Yes, we will be checking out happy hours.
Yeah, and the good thing about happy hours, you get home in time for Jeopardy.
Yeah.
That's right. And we've been to close to 100.
Yeah.
Not all in the same place.
And do you have a whole
I have a
separate
list.
list?
I have a list.
That'll be that's a long list in another show.
I was thinking there was another thing. Thinking about reasons why people might come here. We also have a lively craft brewing and distillery
Right.
culture.
Very lively and very family oriented too, I might
Yeah,
add.
yeah, you're right.
Playgrounds, sandlots, toy corners. I mean,
High Bank.
The kids can
is
watch you
opening-
drink. I
Yeah.
guess I don't know.
High Bank is opening its third
yeah.
distillery restaurant.
Yeah.
And Middle West Spirits. And
One of our favorites, Hoof-Hearted.
Hoof-Hearted, which actually closed
Wolf's Ridge.
Wolf's Ridge.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's
Yeah.
the one in Grandview?
Yeah, I'm actually going there
Watershed?
this week.
Watershed,
Yeah.
So distillery restaurants is another driver,
Yeah.
and breweries. And then there are these little places like Understory, which is spawned by Wolf's Ridge. They took over a school building
So awesome.
along the Olentangy Trail, and they have 2 different casual restaurants. They also have a breakfast restaurant
And an event
and
space.
a coffee
space.
shop in
Yeah.
and an event space.
And architecturally, it was great that they saved it.
Fabulous.
Beautiful, beautiful building. Yeah. One of the other reasons I think we can succeed as a food town is we're smack dab in the middle of Ohio. The largest industry in Ohio is agriculture.
Yeah, corn, I guess.
Yeah, and other things.
Yeah.
And, tomatoes, for instance. We've got, what is it, that Gahanna calls himself the herb capital of the world.
Is it Gahanna is herb, and then Reynoldsburg is
It's
the
tomato,
tomatoes,
yeah.
and Circleville is pumpkins, and
we have, there are a lot of cattle around.
the home of the tomato, Reynoldsburg,
yeah. So
the tomato festival, the corn festival,
Yeah.
all these.
So having fresh product available has become very important to restaurateurs. They want the food to table theory.
And who do we have right here in Ohio? Farmer
Jones.
Farmer Jones,
Farmer
right?
Jones, yeah.
In Huron, Ohio.
Huron, Ohio, which he visited us at WOSU a couple times.
Character.
Fabulous guy, and which he's very much into regenerative. Let me say that 10 times. Farming, not just organic, but making the soil better than they found it, leaving it better than they found it.
And he probably picked that up. I've always ascribed the fact that the nitrates and phosphates from Lake Erie are killing the fish, et cetera. And
Yeah.
that comes from too much fertilizer
Right.
In that area. So he's bringing the soil back. And he started it off with his principal product were the baby vegetables.
Well, he could custom grow vegetables, and that's kind of how he got
Yeah.
super big with the restaurants
I
all
remember
over the
our
world.
daughter's wedding had to have some kind of pea tendrils in the soup that we had to have driven in from Huron.
Are you kidding me?
No, I still remember. Mary said, "We're going to have to do this." And I went, shrug.
What's another?
What's another?
Just write the checks, Dan.
Yeah.
Just write the checks.
Yeah, that's incredible that
Not
he's
to
right
mention-
there.
And
I mean,
and there's a plane load of stuff that goes to Paris every day.
well, all over the world.
Yeah,
I mean, they
but the
ship it
Michelin
out. Yeah.
restaurants require.
But what a
Right.
treasure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons we can support a restaurant community, a growth in a restaurant
And
community.
a farm to table,
Yeah.
just profoundly flourishing.
And lest we forget, Columbus is the home for some great grocery stores, and with more coming.
Yeah.
We had Wyland's, we had others, and now we have Littleton's Market.
Yes.
Where else can you go and find fresh foie gras during the holidays? And veal.
Yeah.
You can't find veal and lamb around here very much anyway.
And
not fresh.
great butchers in all of these places,
Yes, right.
Wylands and Littleton's in particular. But
And
Hills Market and
Saraga International Market on Morris Road. It's just like all these, and Carfagnas,
yeah,
Disneyland for foodies, where they make their own mozzarella and the pastas and things like that. That just helps to support and breed the people's interest in food. They even have a little restaurant. And,
Well, I want to tell everybody thanks for joining us for another episode of Chefs in the City. You can like us on Facebook. You can look for us on Threads, Blue Sky, and Instagram. You can email us at chefsinthecity.111@gmail.com. We'll have more coming next time. I hope you'll join us. Thanks.
Boxland Media. Think big,